Championship hangover. The Fantasy Ruckers boys have returned from Rhode Island and are here to reflect on what was an amazing weekend in Pawtucket for the championship between the Houston SaberCats and the New England Free Jacks. Congrats to the New England Free Jacks for becoming back-to-back-to-back champions. We break it all down on this episode of the Fantasy Ruckers Show.
Where rugby and the world of fantasy sports collide. Welcome to the Fantasy Ruckers Show, bringing fantasy rugby to the masses, talking all things rugby from the MLR to leagues around the world. We're on top of it. Headphones on, pads off. This is the Fantasy Ruckers Show. Now, here are your hosts, Ryan Yee, Matt Yee, and Devin Vanderpool.
What's up, everybody? This is episode 162 of the Fantasy Ruckers Show. Thank you so much to our Fantasy Ruckers League members, our community members, and everyone else tagging along on this journey of making fantasy rugby a reality in MLR. With you this week, Matt Yee. I am Ryan Yee. And Matt, we made it safely back from Rhode Island in what was a incredible weekend of festivities, of some fun rugby, a little bit of food, a little bit of drink, all the above. It was a pretty awesome time, and we made it back home here to break down the weekend that was. Of course, share with you all the experience that we had in Rhode Island, and also talk a little bit about this final match, an exciting one between the New England Free Jacks and Houston SaberCats.
Yeah, we had a good, nice little weekend. We met a bunch of the Fantasy Ruckers community. We met a bunch of the MLR community, which was awesome. And yeah, we have. I mean, I don't want to spoil too much, right? I know we got a little bit of a day in the life or day in the weekend video up, so I don't want to spoil too much, and I want to let the people experience it on their own, with their own eyes and with their own ears and with their own hearts.
Yeah, no. So this episode, we're calling it the Championship Hangover. We're going to reflect on, we've had a couple days to kind of think about the match that happened over the weekend between the Houston SaberCats and New England Free Jacks. Of course, congratulations to the New England Free Jacks for being back-to-back champions. Make it a three-peat. Congrats to them. Of course, we'll break down that match and again kind of go into what we experienced over the weekend a little bit here, and tease to a really special something that we have posted on our YouTube channel for some people to check out. But again, we'll get into it. Jam-packed episode as always. Before we do though, like we say every episode, give us a like, subscribe, hit that bell down below. It helps us go a long way. Of course, without the supporters, we wouldn't be able to do all this fun stuff that we've been able to experience and share that with you, on top of making fantasy MLR reality. So again, we cannot say enough how much we do appreciate that support. Follow us at the Fantasy Ruckers for all that great content that has come down before the championship, that has come down since the championship, has come down after the championship, and will continue to come down this offseason. You'll find that at the Fantasy Ruckers at all of our social media channels. Check out the fantasyruckers.com, official website for Fantasy MLR here on the Fantasy Ruckers Show, and a Discord channel too. You can find that down below in the league. Not much to talk about when it comes to news, so we're going to hop right into a very special update from your Supreme Commissioner.
Wait, right. We got one piece of news. I don't think we got a chance to talk about it in depth on the weekend with the lead up to the game, if you had a chance to tune into that preview episode. But right, I think we do have one news that we do have to get to.
Okay. All right. Well, then let me switch gears here and do a news dump.
News dump.
Oh, he's still hungover.
Still hungover. I almost got it done.
You're so eager. You're so eager to play the trumpets. But no, Ryan, I think we do have to talk about the departure of Greg Cooper from Utah. Okay. I think this happened last week, where it was announced that Greg Cooper would be moving to the Japanese league to coach a side there. Don't know which side, Ryan, if you can look that up. But I know that he's moving over to Japan. To me, it's like you look at this and you look at what Greg Cooper did with Utah. I think he's definitely one of the top two, not two, for Coach of the Year candidate. Just bringing a Utah side from kind of like the ashes into a success story this year and being one of the top teams, or the top team in the West, almost the champion of the West. is is awesome. So to see him depart, it's sad, but you're just hoping that the guy who comes in to fill behind continues that momentum and the legacy that Greg Cooper has now placed.
Yeah. Don't have any exact team, but
That's Japan team,
it is
just in Japan
it
League.
is a Japanese team. Yeah,
Got it.
it is interesting. It is interesting because obviously Utah had the season that they had, and the instability, I guess you could say, that they faced throughout this season, lead up to this season, all of that, and despite all that, being able to accomplish what they accomplished. Losing a head coach, I think, may be a step above what they had to face this past year. So we'll see. Obviously, this happens right after the end of 2025, the 2025 year. So they have time to kind of figure it out and move forward here. Again, we talked about it last episode, Maddie, about how Utah really needs to look at this season as a massive success on where they've come from.
Mhm.
Greg Cooper, of course, was obviously a big part of that. Can they keep that momentum going with someone else at the helm? That will be something, and the big question mark leading into 2026. But either way, yeah, a solid finish to a Utah season. Not exactly what you want to see when you want to continue that continuity here into next year. But yeah, Greg Cooper, they're gonna have to figure out a way to do it without him moving forward.
Yep,
Okay.
for sure.
Last piece of news I do want to mention, though, is something that we
Whoa.
did talk about in our live show. If you haven't checked out the live show, it is posted on our YouTube channel. We got the pleasure of being on site at MLR Fan Fest to break down the match ahead of the championship game. Bring on some really, really cool guests, and also
And
interact with you, the fans out there as well.
and I have to Ryan, before you get in, I have to say just about the live show since you brought it up. For those of you who are kind of thinking, oh, it's a live show, pregame show for the game. I think some of the tidbits, and I don't want to spoil anything, right? Some of the tidbits are news and notes in itself that we got
Yes,
from the likes of of Dallin Stafford, of
that Brandon Sparks.
Brandon Sparks.
Yep. Which is where I'm
Yeah.
leading
So
to. Which is where I'm
yep.
leading to here. Again, you can check out that live show. We will be posting content from that live show moving forward. We're going to have some tidbits from those interviews coming out soon, so you'll be able to catch up on all that. But I think the biggest tidbit coming out there, Matt, you mentioned the interviews that we had in speaking with Brandon Sparks. One of the very, very interesting things that he mentioned, nothing finalized, but he did mention the looking at it. Maybe is this the first time that we're possibly breaking news? Maybe, I don't know. But
I mean,
Brandon
you said
did
we could
say
bring it up.
this is something that we could bring up and talk about, that they are looking at TMO and the ways that they can improve on that, and actually in turn possibly get rid of it as a whole, with the kind of feedback they've gotten this year. So that is something that the league is looking at. Again, director of rugby Brennan Sparks, obviously a big part of the play that happens on the field. And he's talked to things about the scrummaging numbers with the rule changes. And again, in this interview mentioning TMO, go check out that interview with Brendan Sparks in our live show. It goes into depth about it, but that is something that we do mention here as news that we, I think, can break here on the Fantasy Rucker Show if you haven't tuned into that interview. All right, now with that being said, Maddie, if you don't have anything else, let's head to a Commissioner Yee's league update.
There we go.
Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye, hear ye.
All right, hear ye, hear ye. Here is Supreme Commissioner Yee with a final
Thank
2025
goodness.
Major League Rugby Commissioners update. I think this is where we're going to take the time, Maddie, to just give a big, big, big thank you to everyone who made it out to Rhode Island, all the people that we met, especially when it comes to people within the Fantasy Ruckers community. This was an awesome trip, Maddie. It was a short one. We bounced out there. We came back after the
Mhm.
match, but it has been such a long time coming in trying to organize something like this. And for us to have the opportunity to finally have an excuse to get out to one of these championship games and finally meet face to face with so many of the people that we have been talking with virtually, whether that be through Discord or through Zoom and all these things. to actually be able to interact with people and meeting people like Stephen Lowen, our community moderator, for the first time, meeting James Dealey, the famous MLR stats guru, to
Yep.
meeting him for the first time, even to ranging to guys like John Payne, who has
Bill
obviously been
Baker.
a big community member of ours for a long, long time. Competed in fantasy for the first time this season with his son, got to meet his son as well, all those people. And I'm sure I am missing a whole bunch of people that we got to meet as well. Um, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all the support along the way. And it was such a pleasure to meet all of you. That can't be understated.
Yeah, 100% agree. Um, yeah, it was such a surreal experience to be able to put face to names. I think
Mhm.
this is one of those things that's been such a long time coming. When the 4 or 5 years that we've been doing this, there have been people that have, been part of this from the start. Guys like Steve and guys like Jam Delay. Um, these two guys have been with us from the start, and to finally be able to kind of, you know, just chat
Yeah. Yeah.
and have a beer together. Like that was just it was awesome. It was
Yeah.
awesome.
And even to an extent, to the guy we hosted our live show with, Bill
Mm.
Baker of American Rugby Rising. I mean, we've been coordinating for so long to get this done and to do something like this. And it was funny the amount of conversations that we had, obviously in the fantasy league, him being one of the OG league members, to obviously having even more conversation to get this all set up and prepared, to then meeting him for the first time at his hotel room to discuss
Whoa.
and set up equipment. We're not there yet. This was just the first date, Maddie. It was just the first date. We'll see whether or not there's another one, which I think there might be. Bill texted me and he said he
Uh-oh.
had a good time, so I think we might be okay. But either way, it just
Always a good
extends from the
sign.
people we work with closely to the people that we talk with in passing to just people in our league. Like Maddie said, it was just really, really cool to see Discord username or Zoom name and put that to a face. Again, thank you for all who came out. And I will give a shout out for the people who didn't come out or who weren't able to come out. You were obviously surely missed. And I do want to give a little shout out to a very special piece of content. First of its kind that we've done on our channel. Of course, we've been doing a whole bunch of podcasts, and we're on episode 162 where we break down each and every game. You get to enjoy and look at our ugly faces for an hour to
Yep.
an hour and a half. But
Very.
this is the first time that we've put something together that is content for you to digest, that gets to take you in behind the scenes of something that we were able to experience. And the goal of this was to allow the people who weren't able to come out to Rhode Island to experience what we experienced here this championship weekend. So on our YouTube channel, up right now, is the Fantasy Ruckers show on the road, the 2025 MLR Championship behind the scenes sights and sounds. We take you from MLR FanFest when we arrived on Friday all the way to the post match celebrations following the championship game on Saturday afternoon. You're right there. You get to live it with us, and it was just cool piecing it together. It was fun to reflect on the awesome weekend we had, and the idea of being able to share that with our community, with our
Mhm.
people, was an awesome thing that and a huge motivator on why we wanted to put something like this together. So check that out. We'll put the link in the description. It's on our social pages. Got a nice little visit and got to meet a lot of some of our friends of the show. Andrew Quatrin putting us in our place, I guess, with a little
As he
bit
should.
of telling us of doubting him in our predictions into this game. But so much fun content that's included in that 17-minute video that you'll want to check out. So go check that out if you weren't able to participate in any of the festivities and make it out to Rhode Island. I do want to also give a shout out to the league and its organizers with how they treated us throughout the weekend. Of course, we've been trying to build this thing from the ground up for a long, long time. And the fact that the league kind of took that seriously and allowed us to participate in what was the festivities to the extent that we were able to do that. I think that was really, really cool. And I think,
Yeah.
again, we've talked about access from this league and the ability to help grow the game. And I think this weekend was a culmination of that and a reflection of that effort and understanding the importance of content creators like ourselves, Maddie and Vandy and myself and Bill Baker of Eagles Overseas
Yeah.
and so many other people out there that they really did go above and beyond to make sure not only were they catering to ESPN and all those people, but also us as well. So I do want to give a big shout out to them as well. I guess the last piece of news I can say here in our Supreme Commissioner Yeast League update is that I did bring the championship jersey to Rhode Island with us just to have it
Mm.
as a little keepsake. Maddie, how close was I to losing this jersey after the first time that we won it?
Yeah, that wasn't your supreme moment. That's for sure.
We could say that the jersey is safely back in our hands, but all I can say is that the jersey may have or may have not been left in a hotel room after checkout, and we did have to do some scrambling to get it back.
And
But
this is why Vanny deserves to win because you just don't care enough about it, right?
I don't know if it's
You
that.
don't want
There's
it
a lot
bad
of things
enough.
going on.
You
But you're
don't want
right.
it bad enough. You
You're
were
right.
willing to leave it in a hotel room, because you just didn't want it bad enough.
Not
And
even
Vandy and I, champs like us, would never.
yeah, not even in my own hotel room either. It was in Bill's hotel room. So
That raises other questions.
yeah, there you go. But I
Who put
can
it on?
safely say that the championship jersey is safe in our hands, and we will make sure to take care of that thing. We need a guy, Maddie. You know, like how the Stanley Cup has the guy with the white gloves that like takes care of it all the way. Can we get a guy like that for
Yeah, it
our
was supposed to be you.
No, but I see. I want to not like I'm Gary Bettman, right? Gary Bettman doesn't walk around with white gloves, right?
No, but I'm sorry. You're gonna have to do some. You're gonna have to do some double duties here.
Dang. All right. Well, here's to hope, and maybe if we grow up, we
Mm,
went to a final this past weekend. Who knows? Maybe in 10 years we'll have that guy.
mm.
We'll see. Last thing I do want to say is that we do have some leftover merch from the 2025 MLR Championship, and with that merch, we're gonna do a little giveaway. We have some cool exclusive 2025 MLR Championship t-shirts that we were giving out at the Fan Fest and at the championship game. And with some of that being left over, we want to give an opportunity to the people who weren't able to make out to grab some of that 2025 MLR Championship merchandise. So if you like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below, you'll be entered into a sweepstakes to win one of these MLR Championship exclusive t-shirts that we had. The design is posted on our socials. They're really, really cool. Maddie, we wore them all weekend long, so they were comfortable. We can
Yep.
attest to that. But I got a handful here that I do want to give out to some lucky community members and supporters for those who were not able to make it out to the 2025 MLR Championship. And of course, also, if you were there at the 2025 MLR Championship and you're a fan, a community member, reach out to us. And if you weren't able to get some merchandise, we do have some stuff for you that we could possibly do that. I will say a little bit of a teaser for this off-season plans. If you're looking at the polo that I am currently wearing, a Nike Fantasy Ruckers polo,
Whoa.
hey, there's some exciting stuff in store for maybe some Fantasy Ruckers merchandise in the future on top of these exclusive t-shirts. All right, Maddie, enough of the schmoozing and enough of the talking to our fans and playing the word vomit that is. It's time to get in to what was an exciting weekend and an exciting match that crowned the New England Free Jacks your three-time back-to-back-to-back MLR champions.
Quick Tap Recap.
All right, time for the final quick tap recap of the 2025 MLR season, a championship edition of the quick tap recap. Free Jacks, Houston SaberCats, Rhode Island, Centerville Bank Stadium. The Free Jacks come out on top, 28-22. In what was somewhat of a back and forth affair, but ended up swinging momentum wise towards New England's favor. Houston trying to pull within it. They had an opportunity there, but then fall short in the end by 6 points. And the Free Jacks, again, like we mentioned, end up being 3 times straight champions. Where do we want to begin with this, Maddie? I think let's begin of your overall thoughts in terms of the gameplay. Is it what you expected? Is it the results? Obviously, we had Houston as a predictor, but I think it's interesting how this one played out.
Yeah, I think, look, I think we got what we expected in terms of physicality. I think obviously once New England started getting behind, Houston had to find some other answers and had to play a little bit of a different style. I think Houston wanted to get in the lead early, but with New England scoring first, I can put a little bit of a wrench in their plans. In my mind, the way that I look at this game is that Houston couldn't execute their game style that they wanted to play. They weren't good on the counterattack. They weren't accurate with their kicking. They weren't good under the high ball. And they just made far too many mistakes that a team who forces other teams to make mistakes couldn't afford to make, and not in a championship game, that's for sure. So it was just a little sloppy. I would say the way that I defined this game, and I was thinking about this over the weekend after we got back, as I was reflecting, I thought Houston had their moments, but New England had the game.
Yeah.
New England played the entire game, and Houston had their moments that helped them get in the right positions to get 22 points. But New England was always in the driver's seat. And the number of times, Ryan, that we looked at each other and kind of said, I don't think this is happening. And it was just, I think you could just feel it both in the stadium and you could see it on the field, that New England just had all the momentum. New England had all the passion. New England had all kind of the flow. And they just weren't going to be beat that day.
Yeah. I think that's the best way to characterize this one, Maddie. I think for essentially the entirety of the game, New England was driving the ship, right? They were the ones that were directing how the game was being played, the pace in which it was being played, how the game was being played. And again, I think that kind of handcuffed Houston into not playing the style, like you mentioned, Maddie, the way that they wanted to play. There were moments, and despite that, right, despite New England having that dominance, Houston had their chances, right? There was a moment you mentioned where we were like, oh, like, I don't know if they're going to do it. I don't know if they're going to do it. And then it was the try that Houston scored that put them right back in it. And you're like, hey, maybe they can do something here. And it just never kind of came into anything. And then you had the yellow card that happened. And I will get into this, but there was an opportunity. They were really, really close to possibly punching it in within one score with the scrum decision, right? And them really dominating for an extent there, especially with that yellow card, to dominate that scrum. And with the new scrummaging rules, not allowing them to take advantage of that, which would have in other leagues probably and most likely ended up in a penalty try for the Houston SaberCats. They were there. They were right there. But again, it was in the end the ability for New England to dictate what they wanted to do. And with having that advantage, Houston ends up falling short.
And I think the other thing that we have to talk about and give credit to the New England side is that when you look at every kind of sports league and the championship, what the championship brings and what you need to win a championship is innovation. You need a plan.
Yeah.
And to me, the way that New England worked off set piece, the way that New England played, was innovative, right? Like what they did off set piece, what that try, the first try that they scored, how that was evolved. Like it wasn't evolved by the Brock Webster pass at the end. It was evolved from the set piece play that they had to exploit the way that Houston plays defense. And they did that multiple times throughout the game. So in my mind, I think New England just came as the more experienced team. And this is where their experience of being 2-time back-to-back and now 3-time back-to-back world champs, not world champs. Can't call it that. MLR champs. We can't call it that. Hey, we can't call it that. I'm taking that out immediately. So US MLR champions.
U.S. sports have a tendency.
Yeah,
to
but
do
we're not following that. That's on me. Knock on the head. Take that on the shins. U.S. MLR Shield champions. That's kind of what they do. Like that's the experience that shows. And you just saw that so many times, whether it was on offense, whether it was on defense, that they caused Houston to to play sloppy. Like that was, you got to give New England Free Jacks defense credit for that. And they caused the Houston D, who is very good, to give up 28 points off really, really innovative and creative ways to attack.
Yeah. Completely off topic, but you mentioned the Shield there. Being able to see it for the first time in person. I know we've done a show in the past where we ranked different rugby trophies or hardware, I guess, with the Shield not technically being a trophy, from across all the leagues. Being able to see it in person, Maddie, your thoughts on the MLR Shield? I mean, it's grown on me seeing it in person.
I mean, sure, it looks the exact same as it does on camera. I don't know how much it changed for you, but it looks like a shield.
I think it made me want to actually like wield it. Like I wanted to like see if I could actually put it on and run around with it. But
hold that bad boy up.
Either way, back on topic.
Yeah.
Again, I think from an entirety, we're on the same sentiment there, and I think a lot of people are on the same sentiment there. Can we quickly touch on that scrummaging part of it? Like, what is your thoughts? I think a lot of people have tweeted out about it.
I think it's dumb. Like, I think the fact that you want to see less scrums and you therefore then hamper a team's ability to take advantage of a key area part of the game, I think it's dumb. I think it's silly. I don't think it makes sense. And you know, I'm sure that and Brandon Sparks and team are looking at that and saying, is that what we want? Like, is that what we want to force? Because if I'm Houston in that moment, I scrum. If you scrum again, they get another yellow card, right? Like that, there's a potential for that. You scrum again, you get a penalty try and a yellow card.
Yeah.
That is game changing right there.
Yeah.
To have to kick for the line out. I mean, whether that was the right decision or not, the fact that they had to kick for a line out or kick to touch, I mean, they could have tapped it, which probably would have been a better decision. But the fact that they had to do that and didn't have a chance to go back to scrum in such a crucial part of the game, I think was a bit silly. But at the end of the day, like it's the rules are the rules. Like you have to plan for those situations. If Houston planned to take a line out, they needed to execute it. And the fact that they didn't execute it shortly after that line out, you know, that's pretty much the epitome of the way that Houston game went for them.
Yeah. One person that's been vocal about it, Ray's Rugby, Brian Ray, who obviously covers the MLR to quite an extent, says, quote, MLR is lesser for not allowing another scrum in that situation. It contributes absolutely nothing to the game to take that option away. And then kind of like a few tweets later says that scrum will no doubt be a point of controversy after this one, as it should be. Can only hope it makes the league reconsider their pointless law variations.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my only counter argument is like, if they tapped and they scored, does anybody care?
Right.
The only reason that the people care, I mean, honestly, even the fact if they kick to the line out and they score off the maul, does anybody care? Like, I think the fact that it turned out the way that it did is why people care. And fine, like I think we were in person there too. Like I forgot the law variation. And I instantly said, yeah, you got to go again. You have to scrum again. And they couldn't. And I forgot about that law. So is it dumb? Yes. Is it the way it is? And has it been played that way all season? And as a team, should you be prepared to make the right decision? And then when you make that decision, execute? Yeah, like you have to do that too. So it is what it is. That's fine. But like, anyways, that's all I really had to say about that. I don't know if you had any more, Rye, but I would love to take some time to call out some key performances from the day.
Yes.
I think a guy who's been loud and definitely has been growing stock over the past 5 weeks is Brock Webster. I think he had a fantastic game. I think he's
player of the match.
I think he's better under the high ball than I expect, and frankly than I remember. And, you know, he played a crucial part, and he was a crucial part for this New England Free Jacks side. I think Bill was saying on the weekend when we were on our pregame show, like he's not Reese McDonald, but he brings a very similar type of stability in the back and very similar type of explosiveness to bring explosive plays and create explosive plays for the team. I thought he was fantastic.
And just quickly there, and just to add to that, like it seemed like he was getting hot at the right time too, because his three best point performances happened in his three last matches of the season with New England, right? 9.2
Yeah.
in round 15, 12.2 in round 16, and then his best performance of the season in that final round with 100 meters gain, his second try of the year for 17.2 fantasy points. It seems like he really did carry that momentum
Yep.
into the playoffs, which then obviously came to fruition even more so in the final.
Yeah, he's a guy that I think really needs to like you really have to call out. Um, I mean, honestly, like when you talk about guys like I I love Max Schumacher's half of his game, the
Yes.
way that he played, like that 15 battle was awesome. I think Max was unfortunately really inaccurate with his kicking. Um, which just, as a fullback in their game style, you really need to do that. I thought AJ Allen team was okay. The centers were honestly okay. Um,
There
and
was there wasn't
and yeah,
any like explosive plays from this game. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there was
yeah.
nothing that happened that was like a 40-meter plus try. Like, I think the one try that stands out to me is the Houston one, actually, that Drake Davis scored with the nice little kind of switch back in when he
Mm.
scored that one. And then the other one, I guess, but again, it was only like 5 to 10 meters out, was when the Free Jacks were crashing the ball up the front and then decide to spin it out. And of course, Paula, with a nice pass from Brock Webster, Paula Bellicana ends up potting it in and scoring what would be your game-winning try that
Yeah.
pushed it to 28 points. So
Yeah, I mean there was that one, and then obviously New England Free Jacks first try.
yeah,
That was a pretty good one. So, yeah, for sure. I mean it's also just difficult, not an excuse, but just difficult from the view on the field,
sure.
to get a really overview. Like that's not necessarily if I were to watch film, and I guess this is a lesson for you young kids that may be watching this and who are watching film and learning to watch film. That's not a great view to watch from, unless maybe you're watching a scrum, you love seeing from the side. But for me, like tactically, it's much easier to watch overhead. But we got to feel the stadium ride. That was a difference. We got
Yeah.
to experience something different for the finals. But no, I think it was a great game. Like I think at the end of the day, it was a great game. I wish Houston I wish it was cleaner in terms of handling, in terms of just mistakes, like general mistakes. I wish Houston was cleaner. I wish it didn't feel as one-sided as it did, because it did feel like New England was really dominating that game the whole time. And but we still ended up getting a great game out of it. And for us, you and I, Rye, who chose Houston to win
Yeah.
and or to cover, we lost both of those.
Yep.
So New England Free Jacks, I think somebody in the post game said like, winners win, but champions cover.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what New
Good
England
teams
did.
win, great teams cover.
Yep,
And that's
there we go.
exactly what New England did. Amidst, while Quattrin is telling us why we should have picked New England, which
Rightfully
now
so.
in hindsight we do realize, of course, because we've doubted this team too many times, and of course, the last time, at least in this 2025 year, ends up being the time that they win their third straight championship. Last question for me from this match. Now that the 2025 MLR season is done, we've watched our last match of rugby in Major League Rugby this year. From this match, obviously, because I think these two teams will probably be favorites heading into 2026, barring what happens over the course of this offseason. Whose stock, fantasy wise, has gone up the most, and are you most excited for? I know it's really, really early.
Absolutely nobody, because whoever we say is going to stink next year. No, I think like,
Balikana has rocketed himself up. Like, to
uh, I think yes, but at the same time, I'm like shit. Like his stock went down last year, but his stock was always high. Like his stock was high the year before that. Yeah, okay, his stock goes up this year. Yeah, that's great. I mean, I'm looking at a guy like when I'm thinking about fantasy stock, I think Max Schumacher
Mhm.
is a guy whose stock goes way up. I think Houston has found a starter in him. Like if Drew Wild or even Davy Kutzer, like if they have to shuffle things around, I think it's really hard to take Max Schumacher off the field.
Mhm.
I think Brock Webster's stock has gone way up.
Mhm.
The fact that he's been doing what he's been doing is awesome. And honestly, like those two, when I think about those two, those two are the guys that I'm really looking forward to next year and wondering where they're going to go in the draft. Because
Yeah.
yeah, Paula Balakana is like an easy one. Like you can say, yeah, he's
Right.
probably going to go first round and then he's going to stink. But
Hmm.
when you think about like guys that who went undrafted or like who went completely undrafted or unseen
Right.
throughout the year, those are two guys that you wouldn't even think of drafting going into this year. And next year, I think they're going to be legitimate guys that are going to be on our draft boards.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. All right. Again, 28-22 victory for the New England Free Jacks, who are crowned your 2025 MLR champions. Maddie, anything left you want to say for this match before we maybe tease a little bit ahead of what's to come this offseason?
Last thing, just like congrats to Houston. Way to go. Uh, and like never doubt New England ever,
Yeah,
ever.
honestly.
I think we've learned our lesson for 2 years in a row. Tonight, I think last year I picked San Diego. This year I picked last year I picked San Diego.
No,
No,
same.
last year I picked no, the year before I picked San Diego.
Hmm.
The year after, I think I picked New England.
Did you
And
pick
then this year
Seattle
I
last
picked
year? No, New
no, I
England.
don't think so. And then
Okay.
this year I picked Houston. So 2 out of 3 years, I'm 1-2. It's not a good record. That's
Uh,
below 500.
Safe to say New England is a dynasty.
And Dynasty 3.
Dynasty. All right. Well, all right. Well, let's talk about and warm the people up and give a rundown of what's to come here this offseason here on the Fantasy Ruckers show.
Rucking Rundown.
All right. Rucking rundown. Offseason edition, because I guess we are technically officially in the MLR offseason.
It has
Uh,
started.
it has started officially, and we know how crazy it can get in the offseason. But we do still have some time to reflect on the season that was, especially from a fantasy perspective. So we kind of alluded to it a couple episodes ago. Obviously, we've been in the thick of playoff coverage here these past couple of weeks, but that does not mean we have not forgotten about the champions of Fantasy MLR, the losers of Fantasy MLR, your top players from the Fantasy MLR season, and maybe some busts, some steals, looking back on what was a very, very awesome 2025 Fantasy MLR season, which I think coincides with a very, very successful 2025 actual MLR season. So, got a lot of stuff coming up here this off season. Things like a look back on the top players, both overall from positional standpoint, looking at your winners, looking at your losers, and of course, the highly coveted Fantasy Ruckers Awards, where we dish out some superlatives and some
Yep.
even more highly touted awards to some of the top fantasy MLR players from across the league. So, in the coming weeks, we will in the coming months, of course, we will be breaking all of that down, talking to fantasy MLR managers about their experience this offseason, seeing whether what changes we can implement. So both from
Mm-hmm.
a strategic standpoint, from a fantasy MLR sense that pertains to our website and pertains to how fantasy MLR operates. So of course, talking about the game itself, all of that is going to happen this offseason, and we're so excited to continue improving and to continue getting better as we continue to trudge on this journey of making fantasy rugby a reality in MLR. So make sure to stay tuned. Make sure to follow along. We don't go anywhere. It might be the MLR offseason, but it is never the fantasy MLR offseason, technically, when it comes to the work that we're doing to help you stay prepared and help you stay ready to win that fantasy MLR championship. Yeah, it's going to be fun. And I
I
think,
will
again,
say, I will
yeah.
say, right. Along with all of that, um, you know, what else the weekend was a good thing for was getting to see some old buddies again.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that I used to play with,
Mm-hmm.
or used to be around the rugby community with. So definitely expect some interviews with the champs
Yes.
at some point,
Yes.
with some individual champs, and off season is a good time to also chat with some of the other lads as well. So
Yeah. I will
look out
say
for
it
those
was
too.
very cool, Maddie, for me to kind of be along there, for you to see, Josiah Mora, to see, Cole Keith, to
Don't
see Quattro.
let him see it in
Okay. Okay. All
in
right.
the thing.
Like, check it out. That you can see those interactions in that video we were alluding to before. the sights and sounds of the Fantasy Ruckers show on the road. Everything you need to see and catch up on when it comes to the 2025 MLR Championship. But you're right, Maddie. We are going to bring you. That's, I think, the most fun part of our offseason is bringing interviews into the Fantasy Rucker Show realm and to be able to ask the hard hitting questions. I think obviously the most memorable one for us last year, I think, was talking to Brock Gallagher with the whole Dallas Jackals fiasco that went on, which was a lot of fun. And I'm sure there'll be other stuff to talk about this offseason that'll come up. So be ready. For all you listening out there, for all you watching, be ready for some familiar faces that you've seen before on this show, and also some new faces, which was a fun thing to do when we were on the road, to meet some people who were more than happy to possibly lend some time to join us here on the Fantasy Ruckers Show. So all that coming up this offseason, fantasy MLR breakdowns, fantasy MLR, reflection per se, and then of course those interviews that we're talking about. All that's going to come this offseason. You're going to be missing. Let me tell you, you are going to be missing Major League Rugby at some point. Let us be that vehicle, an outlet for you to itch that craving. And obviously, we'll be talking fantasy MLR, but we'll also be talking MLR as a whole, especially when it comes to these interviews. This is a great way to make sure that when you do start to miss this league and miss the game, that you won't miss it as much listening to us and listening to the people we bring on this show. We'll wait for Vandy. Vandy will return soon to do the TFR betting challenge.
Well, I was just going to say that we should wait for Vandy, but we'll also continue to gamble. We'll continue to have the degenerate gambles. We've got the summer test series coming up in the Southern Hemisphere. We got the Lions test series continuing to come up. And then we're going to get into NBC Bunnies Cup, and that is my bread and butter, and we are laughing once we start gambling on that. So just watch out. The Betstamp or the Dandy's Degenerate Gambles TFR betting challenge presented by Betstamp is not going anywhere as long as I'm still on a heater with these bets.
Absolutely. All right. Well, hey, a fun, awesome end to an amazing 2025 season. We've closed up the books for the 2025 Fantasy MLR season. We now close up the books for the actual 2025 Major League Rugby season. Again, a big shout out, a big thank you to all of you out there for listening, for supporting us, and then especially for those who were able to meet in person at the championship this past weekend. It was such a blast to be able to do that. So thank you again. Thank you for the support. We'll continue to work hard. Again, like, subscribe, comment, chance to possibly get some of this championship merch that we have left over from our journey and our shipping out to Rhode Island. Again, check out that exclusive content that we have on our YouTube channel that brings you right into the sights and sounds of the entire championship weekend and get you an inside look into what we were able to experience. And so thankful to have experienced here this past weekend. So couldn't have explained it better myself than watching that video and why it was such an awesome time. Matt, anything you have left to say to the people? We are going to take a little bit of a break here for the coming weeks. So a tiny off season. I kind of lied to the people. A little tiny off season. We'll be back in a couple weeks with all of that breakdown, with all of that reflection, with hopefully even better content, with much bigger improvements. Again, we're going to take a step back here to just reassess kind of everything that we're doing here and hopefully bring the new, better, all that good stuff to our listeners and supporters.
Yeah. Last thing I think we can end it off on is just for those of you in Canada, happy Canada Day upcoming. And I guess potentially on the day of. So happy Canada Day.
Happy Canada Day, everybody.
And for those of you in America, happy 4th of July. Hope you enjoyed the long weekend. And we will definitely be enjoying the long weekend and a little bit of a break after a pretty busy season for us.
Yeah, absolutely. But also very, very excited for what's to come here on the Fantasy Ruckers. All right. For Matt Yee, for Devin Vandy Vanderpool, I am Ryan Yee. Thank you again to everyone. And we'll see you very, very soon for another episode of the Fantasy Ruckers Show.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Fantasy Ruckers Show, bringing fantasy rugby to the masses, covering everything rugby from the MLR and beyond. We hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review, and be sure to tell all your friends. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, connect with us on social media at the Fantasy Ruckers. Till next time, this is the Fantasy Ruckers Show, signing off.